Namita, how did you become fluent in English? So can you tell us your secret?
I'll be honest, I think till class 7th or 8th, my English was really poor. I would get negative marks because of that.
We'll be covering 7 mistakes that most people
Let's
make.
see an example here. I think examples are one of the best ways to understand a mistake. She go to work every day. Now here in this sentence.
Hi Namita, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Meenu?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy.
Hi, Meenu. I am really excited to be here with you too, Meenu.
So please introduce yourself, Namita.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Namita Goyal. I'm co-founder of Sparky AI. It's an English-speaking app. I am an educator for the last 15 years. I have taught in India, I've taught in the US, and I have built curriculum which is used by over 1 million users across India. And with Sparky, we are building an app which focuses on building your English, spoken English fluency. And we will talk more about it later, but so excited to meet all of you today.
Yeah, that's so inspiring. And we will move on to the topic that there are so many mistakes that people make, and we'll be covering 7 mistakes that most people make. But before we start the topic, I would like to say that don't worry about making mistakes. Making mistakes is the only thing that will, lead you to the path. You should at least be aware of these mistakes that you are making. So that is why we are making this video. But this is not to say that you stop the flow, you start becoming underconfident and you keep thinking that, oh, I'm making mistake. You have to just go with the flow and speak English with confidence.
Completely agree with you on that. Completely agree with this disclaimer that making mistakes is very important, but this video is more about you becoming aware that what kind of mistakes you make, and if you do make them, what can you do about them?
Right. According to you, what is the first mistake that most English learners make?
Let's get started with the one of the first mistakes, or the most common mistake that our learners make.
Okay.
One of the first ones, and Meenu, I'm sure that you would also have come across that using incorrect verb form with subject. Now let's understand what is a subject in a sentence. Mm-hmm. Now subject is the person who's doing the action. Let's see an example here. I think examples are one of the best ways to understand a mistake. Yeah. She go to work every day. Now here in this sentence, she is the subject.
Go is the main verb. Yeah.
Go is the main verb.
Right.
And work is the object. And every day is the time. Like when is that actually? When are you actually doing this action of going to work? Okay. You're going to work every day. But over here, because our subject is singular, she, we are talking about one person. Right. So whenever we use a singular verb, we need a singular subject, we need to add E or ES to the verb. Right. Our verb form changes. Yeah. So instead of saying she go to work every day, it needs to be she goes to work every day.
Right.
Yes.
Let's say it is eat. She eats food. Then we have to put S or ES with eat. So with any verb, we have to put S or ES only if the subject is singular.
Only if the subject is singular. Right. Similarly, like over here, if the subject is plural, right. For example, they, then we will say they go to work every day.
Correct. They go to work, right.
So then we use the verb in their base form. Base form means that it is the way it is. Go. Go right. is the base form. Now, if we want to, so this is the most common mistake that we end up making.
Correct.
And this we need to keep in mind, what is our subject. So if our subject is singular, we add either S or ES to the verb, or if our subject is plural, we leave it as is.
Correct.
We don't. So there are 2 more examples I've given. The dog runs fast in the park. Yes. The dog is one dog we are talking about.
Correct.
So we added S to runs because our subject was singular. Right. So we added S to our verb to convey the right message that this is what the dog is doing right now.
Right.
Same way, they run fast in the park. They is a plural subject. So just keeping in mind that the subject that you're using is singular or plural. Accordingly, you make the change in your verb. I think in grammar, one of the most important verb is extremely important. And
Correct.
most of the mistakes we end up making is with respect to the verb form.
Right.
When the
Forms
action
of
is
words.
happening, how the action is happening, conveying that is very, very important. So
Correct.
this is one of the first kind of mistakes that they
And
make.
this is the most common one.
Most common one.
Now, this is the second mistake that they make.
Absolutely. This kind of mistake I'm noticing, like, based on the conversations that I have with the learners, Sparky's learners, also noticing some of the conversations that learners have with Sparky. So these are like over many users, like we are talking about thousands of users, and the mistakes that they made. So this is like a consolidation of those mistakes, compilation of those mistakes. We talked about like how subject and verb, how subject affects the verb. Now over here, we are noticing that in sentences, a lot of times, we want to convey a message, but we don't necessarily sequence the words correctly, like the correct order.
Right.
See, end of the day, we are able to convey the message. But if our aim is to be accurate while conveying it, it is important to know what should be the structure of my sentence. Let's see an example here. I have to today finish this assignment.
Yeah.
Now it is conveying the message. It is conveying the message that there is an assignment which I need to finish today.
Right.
But now if I have to say it grammatically correct, then I need to remember the flow of it. Now here the flow is, the first thing will come subject. Who's the subject? I am the subject. I.
Yes.
Now verb over here is have to finish, because that is the action that you need to take. Have to finish. And what do you have to finish? This assignment.
Which is
and by when do you have to finish? Today. So
Right.
subject, verb, object plus time or a place, like depending upon your sentence's structure. So this is the flow. I have to finish this assignment today. See, the message is still the same, but it is important to sequence it correctly. So if you remember, if our viewers remember this sentence structure, I'm fairly sure that the more they practice it, and if they just remember that, the subject is going to come, then the verb is going to come, then the object is going to
And
come. Time will come at the end always.
Yes. Before we move on to the next mistake, can you
Sure.
tell me, can Sparky help them correct their mistakes?
Absolutely. So the way Sparky does this is Sparky will have a conversation with you on a topic of your choice. So, for example, we are talking about, say, you want to prepare for an interview. You're having a conversation with Sparky, and Sparky will ask you questions like, how would you introduce yourself? And while speaking, you make a mistake. Like if you just say myself, Namita Goel, it will say, we don't start the sentence with myself.
Yeah.
That I am Namita Goel. This is how. So it will very gently correct you.
Okay.
And then it will ask you, it will move forward. It will ask you that, do you want to repeat it or do you want to move forward? So basically a lot of choice is given to the user, and let's actually, best ways to see how Sparky does the correction.
Yeah. Let's see how it corrects their mistakes. Yeah.
Yes, we will see a demo. So in this demo, you will notice that how Sparky is correcting the mistake. Like how you can have a conversation with Sparky, and in the conversation when you are making a mistake, how Sparky corrects it. In this demo, you will also see that there are some game-based formats through which you can also practice your grammar or your vocabulary or your pronunciation, and it's a fun way. It doesn't put too much of pressure on you. So let's see the demo.
Hey, Rima. You can talk to me or ask me questions about any topic. What would you like to talk about today?
Hi Sparky, I need help with my English. So I will say some sentences. If you could tell me whether they are correct or if they are incorrect, can you tell me the correct answer?
Sure, Rima. I'd be happy to help you with your English sentences. Let's start.
I didn't knew that my exam was today.
Did you mean to say I didn't know that my exam was today? In this sentence, knew should be replaced with no.
Very impressive how it corrects their mistakes. So shall we move on to the next mistake?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is again the word order, again incorrect word order, but it is in questions is what I've noticed.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of this incorrect word order is coming from our WhatsApp and our text. So a lot of how we write our WhatsApp is how we've started speaking
Right.
also. So let's read the first sentence over here, which is the incorrect one. You are coming to the party. It's actually a statement.
Correct.
By just putting a
Affirmative,
question
right.
mark at the end, it's not something that you are asking someone. It is something you're just telling that you are coming to the party. But by putting a question mark, we are just leaving it as a open ground that I'm still giving you choice to answer
It
yes or
becomes
no.
a question only because of the question mark. Otherwise, it's an affirmative sentence.
Exactly, it's an affirmative sentence, correctly. So the right way of asking this question is just switching the two. Are you coming to
Right.
the party? Because
So
then you're waiting for a yes or a no response.
the helping verb should come in the starting of the sentence always for the interrogative sentences.
Completely agree. So here also a simple sentence structure I've given is when you're using are or is or do,
Correct.
the question should start with one of these three. These are some of the most commonly used helping verbs or auxiliary verbs, and then that follows up with a subject and then the main verb. So over here are is that helping verb, then you have subject, which is you or me or whoever, like depending upon your sentence structure, and the main verb over here is coming.
Let's give them a few examples. Like we can start a sentence with is, and if we want to ask, is he there? So we won't say he is there because that would be answer. We would say, is he there? Or maybe
Is
one
he
with
there?
do. One example with
Do you want to come to the park with me?
right. Do you want to come to the park with me? Or do you agree?
Do you agree?
Yeah.
Correct.
So we can form
Completely
questions
agree.
by putting the helping verb in the starting. That's the only basics
Correct.
that you have to remember.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, like I said, that a lot of it comes because we are texting, and in that we have informal conversations. But it is important, like during your formal conversations,
Right.
how do you ensure that you're forming your questions correctly?
Yeah. This
In a professional setting, you need to ask the question correctly so that you get the answer.
right.
And so in professional setting, asking questions is very, very important.
Yes.
And asking it correctly is very important. So
Can
I
we
from a
ask
professional
questions from Sparky?
Absolutely, you can ask anything from Sparky, and so there is. If you go to the homepage of Sparky, at the top there is something called talk about anything, and you can discuss any topic of your choice. You can ask questions, and best part is Sparky will ask you more questions.
Okay.
So that is another way of telling you the right way of asking questions is also for you to see what are the right ways of asking questions. So a lot of learning with Sparky happens very invisibly without you even realizing. So Meenu, some of our learners who've been interacting with Sparky for over 3 months, they have noticed that they make close to 30% less grammar mistakes.
Okay.
And we have noticed that their overall vocabulary or their ability to speak in English has increased by 15 to 20%. That they are speaking more in their even when they're not interacting with Sparky. So and they just practice for like 10-12 minutes every day.
And how does it help them improve their vocabulary?
There are multiple ways in it that it does. So when we are talking to Sparky, what happens is that Sparky will ask you questions, and it will give you some suggestions that do you want to use do you want to say it like this. So by suggesting you some sentence structure, it is already helping you build your vocabulary. So for example, can you come here very fast? Can be conveyed as can you come here quickly?
Correct.
So those are very gentle ways of improving your vocabulary. Then you can also click on any word that Sparky has said and get a translation, meaning, understanding of it. And you can save that word to build your dictionary with Sparky.
Yeah.
And Sparky also offers help, where there's a help button when you are having a conversation and you don't know what to say. It will help you, it will guide you. Now you can choose to use that hint or you can make your own.
I also feel that vocabulary should be learned in context. When you just mug up new words and you don't use them, you think that it will stay in your head, but it doesn't happen unless you use them.
Absolutely. So for example, if we are talking about, say, a birthday party.
Right.
Now, what Sparky will do is it will show you a picture and it will ask you like, what all do you see in it? And then it will ask you that, can you describe it for me?
Okay.
So, and then what it will say is, how about we use this word? So the point is, it is happening in the context of something that they are saying.
Right. So it is gently suggesting you new words and it is building your vocabulary over time.
Correct. Absolutely.
So let's see the next mistake.
Now, this one is my absolute favorite. This is the fourth one.
Very common.
Incorrect tense use with did and didn't. Now, this, I would say, for all the viewers over here, just think about it like a rule that you need to remember. That with did or didn't, we do not, it's already conveying something that happened in the past.
Yes.
So we do not need to use another past tense with it.
Correct.
So just remember this. Like so many times I've heard people say, I didn't knew that the party was today. I didn't went there. That you were coming. I didn't went there. I didn't got it.
Yeah.
And it is just very important to remember that with did or didn't.
Yeah. So just use the thumb rule that with did and didn't, we have already indicated past tense. So there is no other indicator required.
Completely agree. So like, for example, so many of my people who I talk to, they've asked, did you got my email? And I'm like, no, I did not get your email.
Yeah.
and that is another way that Sparky does. Like, if you make a mistake, it would say, did you mean to say that, did you get my email?
Yeah. And that is very gentle, saying this, did you mean to say, instead of saying you were incorrect.
Yes, absolutely. So that's a gentle way of correcting it. That did you mean to say this? Because it's seeking to understand. So learners, please just keep this rule in mind. Did and didn't is already conveying past.
Correct.
We just use the verb in its base form without changing its verb.
So mujhe pata nahi tha, it should be I didn't know that instead of I didn't knew that.
Yes, correct. Now moving on to the next one. Now confusing between past and present tense. Now this happens predominantly with when we are using yesterday, today, tomorrow. Now, and especially with yesterday, this happens a lot. Yesterday as a word is already conveying something that happened in the past.
Right.
So now we need to ensure that we are maintaining the same tense in the sentence. So our verb also needs to convey that the action happened in the past. So for example, yesterday I go to the market. Go is not telling us that the action has happened. It's that I went to market yesterday.
Right.
So the go becomes went, because went is the past tense of the verb. So yesterday I went to the market. So just keep in mind that if you're using yesterday, we need to follow the same.
Yes, use in the past form of the verb.
Correct. So and if you want to say that you're going to the market, then you just say, today I will go to the market.
Yeah.
Now this is another one when we use double negatives in a sentence. Like for example, I don't need no help. Now if we just break down the sentence, it means I don't need no help. Basically,
I need help. Yes, because even in maths, 2 minus they cancel each other.
Yes. So you can either drop the second negative, just say I don't need help, or you can say I don't need any help. Replace that no with any. Either omit it or replace it.
Correct.
Use only one negative in it. That's about it. You don't need to use two negatives.
Let's say you don't have money. You can say, I don't have money, or you can say, I have no money. There should be only one negative.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely
remove one
right.
of them. Yeah.
Remove one of them.
Right.
Don't use both of them together.
Correct.
And here is the last one, Meenu. And this is something that a lot of times I think it's used more as an emotional response, like most, bestest.
Yeah. Bestest. People say bestest. Yeah.
Bestest. So I think this error happens because sometimes we don't know which adjective we need to convert by adding, into a comparative or a superlative as after adding er or est. So er is when we are comparing the two things, and est is when we want to say that this is like the best thing.
Best out of everyone, in the whole class or something. Yeah.
Absolutely. So a lot of times we make this mistake, especially in comparison, is
Right.
where we add the comparison in the form of the adjective also, and we add the comparison in the form of more as well. So she is more prettier than her sister. Now here more is redundant.
Right.
It is not adding any value to it because
Correct.
because prettier is already conveying that
Yes.
sister is prettier than her.
Right.
Or if you want to quantify it, that I don't know how you can quantify pretty, but saying that
But
she's
if you
2
want to-
times prettier than her
If you
sister.
want to emphasize, you could say she is much prettier than her sister, but you can't put she is more prettier than her sister.
Correct. Much is another one. Yes, you can use. Or saying that she runs faster than her sister, for example.
Right. Right.
We can't say she runs more faster than her sister, or
No,
much
we can't say
faster
that.
is another
She
way of
runs way
saying.
faster. We can use some
Way
other words
faster.
which can come, but we can't put er twice. This is also conveying er and
Correct. So more is adding no value to the sentence and it is making it incorrect. It's just like double negative.
Correct.
One negative is enough. Same way over here, one comparative is enough.
Right.
So do not use more and most when in an adjective you're already using either it is because pretty is the adjective. Now the form that we have changed it to is prettier, and so that is the comparative form, and the superlative degree will be prettiest.
Prettiest.
So if you're already adding er or est to that adjective, we don't need to add more or most before it.
If we want to say
Because-
she's prettiest in the class, we can say she's prettiest in the class instead of saying she's most prettiest in the class.
Absolutely. Now let's take an example here. Like this is the most exciting movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Now exciting is in its base form. There is no er added to it. There is no est added to it. Then most is adding that value. That
Right.
this is the most exciting movie I've ever seen.
Yes. Yeah.
So that is a statement that I'm making.
Correct.
So with this we have covered the 7 mistakes.
Yeah. Because these are the most common mistakes that they all make.
Yes, absolutely. I think the only way to know this is by trying. See, it's not important to remember that what is the type of mistake I've made, but it is just important to remember that if I've made this mistake, what can I do about it?
And Namita, how did you become fluent in English? I think you are from a Hindi medium background, right? And learning English as a second language is very difficult. And most of my learners say that, ma'am, only those people can become fluent in English who are from English medium school. So can you tell us your secret so that our learners get inspired from you?
So Meenu, I come from a small town in Uttar Pradesh called Bareilly, and so I did go to one of the good schools in Bareilly at that time. This is like I'm talking about 25, 27 years ago. I think what really worked for me was my father. He because my mother only spoke in Hindi, but my father, because he's a businessman and he would meet a lot of clients, not just from India but even from outside. So I think what really helped me was him putting a lot of emphasis on learning English, and the way he would do this with us is by making sure that we read newspaper every Sunday with him. Reading books with him, going for competitions that were there. Even if we were not able to string words together to make a sentence, he's like, it's okay, make a mistake. but it is very important for you to practice, because he had a aspiration for us that we should not just stay in Bareilly. We should have opportunity to go out of Bareilly, or language should not be the reason why we are not able to go somewhere outside. And I'll be honest, I think till class 7th or 8th, my English was really poor. I would get negative marks because of that, and of course because my mother, she was mostly at home, so we used to only talk in Hindi. So for me, English exposure was only when my father was there. So I think him building that reading as a habit and making us put in uncomfortable places was one of the ways for us to become fluent in English. And I'll be honest, I still make a lot of mistakes, but I know that I'm not afraid of making mistakes. I think my continuous practice has made me very confident today.
Wow. So your father had a vision at that time, 25 years back, that English would be so necessary in the times to come. And
absolutely. I think that's what I think a lot of exposure does to you when you are reading or you are traveling, you're going to different places, you're meeting different people. I think he himself realized, because he learned English language on his own, because my grandfather, nobody had exposure to English language. And back then the books, etc., most of them were not in English. So the only way for him to build that, the way he acquired language naturally, he wanted the same thing for his kids as well. That read it, meet people, you put yourself in uncomfortable situation where there is no other option but to speak in that language.
Okay, how did he put you in uncomfortable situations? Did he ask you to speak English suddenly in front of strangers?
Yes, we would go out and he would be like, "Oh, there's an extemporary competition that is happening. Come, let's go for it." and we would be like, "Papa, we are not ready." But he's like, "It's okay, I'm there for you. What is the worst that will happen? You will make mistake. That's okay. You have your life ahead of you." So I think just getting us past that fear of making mistakes was a big leap for us. Otherwise, a lot of us hesitate because we are making mistakes all the time.
Right.
And we are afraid of making mistakes.
Correct.
But I think that is making mistakes is the most important part of a learning journey.
Right.
And I think that was a very crucial message that he conveyed to us at a very early age.
Okay, that's great. And without mistakes, we can't learn anything. So people are afraid of making mistakes, but we have to learn from our mistakes. We have to make mistakes, learn from them, and then make new ones. So that is the only way to learn something. Yeah.
Completely agree with you on that, Meenu.
Yeah. So as a Hindi medium student, most of my learners say that we keep translating things in our head. So every Hindi medium student does that in the starting. So you also did that while you were
speaking? Absolutely. I'll give you an example. So because it's so fresh in my mind, even as a kid, my sister, my older sister, she developed English language very quickly, and she would, to tease me, she'll keep giving me sentences and ask me to convert it in English, translate it in English. And she said, "वो मुझे बुला रहा है." Now translated in English. And the way I'm thinking about it, I'm like, "Oh, he said to me, come." And because that's how I'm translating it in my mind, that bula raha hai means gender is a male, so he, bula raha hai matlab calling, and that's how I translated it. And while she made fun of me, my father was very proud of me. He's like, that's the first step, that you are using the language, that whatever you know from Hindi to English, you are doing that translation.
Yeah.
Grammar correction can happen with practice, but it is okay. It is important for you to do that switch deliberately in your head. And he then pushed us that every day in your sentence, even if it's a Hindi sentence, translate the words that you know in English. And that's how it will become part of your practice.
Yes. So generally everyone does literal translation first, word to word translation. People start doing that. At the later stages, they understand that, we can't translate it from word to word. We have to understand the meaning and then translate the meaning, not the word.
Correct. That's right. Absolutely. But that leap takes time.
Right. That takes time. So for Hindi medium students, it's actually difficult. I was also a Hindi medium student, and you would be surprised to know that I was a topper in English. I used
Oh,
to
wow.
talk in English. I was so good with grammar that when I was in class 6, my cousins who were 18, 19 or 20, they used to come and say, please mujhe tenses sikha do. I used to teach tenses and English grammar to the ones 20, 25, and I was just 11 at that time. So I was so brilliant
Oh, wow.
in English, but I had no courage to speak a single line in English. So, grammar, just mugging up grammar and thinking that if I master grammar, that, that doesn't guarantee that you will be a good speaker also. So I got the courage only when I, picked up a job. There it was compulsory to speak in English. So then I got the atmosphere. Then I, started developing English fluency skills.
Okay.
So, I think that people shouldn't focus too much on grammar. So even after mastering grammar, some people can't speak English.
Completely agree with you, because it's like a concept. It's very conceptual. It's not something which you can, unless you put it in application, like you put it to
Correct.
use, you
Yes.
will not be able to understand. So I think the way traditionally we have learned grammar also is very rule,
Right,
not
right.
from a application point of view.
Correct.
And I think whenever I teach my learners, or the way Sparky does conversation, the way Sparky AI app does conversation with the learners is having conversation, and during conversation it will correct you that here is a mistake that you made, and here is a correction for it, because that's the most natural way of knowing that, oh, I said something, because any language needs to be learned in the context, or with some theme in mind.
Correct.
And I don't think so. That's how we learned. We learned grammar very standalone.
Yes, yes.
Not in connection with anything else, that how it connects with our life.
Yeah.
And I think and that's where people fear grammar also.
Right.
But I think if we are able to identify some of the common mistakes that we end up making, and end of the day, it's the more you practice, the better you get at it. There's no way around it. But if you just become aware of some of the common grammar mistakes that we all make, and then slowly what will happen is, when you are becoming aware that, oh, these are the common mistakes that we make, overcoming them will solve 50% of the problem. And I think if you keep going through this video, what I tell my learners is that remembering all 7 of them are going to be difficult. But for example, if today you just take it upon you that today, whatever I'm going to speak, I'm going to make sure that my subject verb agreement is correct. Like if my subject is singular, accordingly I'm modifying my verb. If we just keep that one rule in mind, and become intentional about it, I think you will automatically notice that in a week's time, you're not making that mistake.
Yes.
And like I said, that, because a lot of these mistakes are coming from what we have noticed in our conversations with learners of Sparky, the kind of conversations they're having with Sparky, reviewing them. And I think that if we overcome these mistakes, I think we are covering 50 to 60% of the common mistakes that each one of us make,
And
while
with-
having a conversation.
Right. With the help of Sparky, they can gradually work on these mistakes one by one, because in one day they
Absolutely.
can't correct all of them. Yeah.
Completely
So,
agree with you on that.
I would suggest everyone to download Sparky from the link given in the description and try it for yourself, and try it free of cost for 30 minutes, and then take the subscription, because it will be very helpful for you, and it is very, very super affordable.
Yes, think about it like just for 6 months, you're just paying 100 rupees a month. And that's a great value for money.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us today, Namita. It was such a lovely
Thank you for
conversation.
inviting me,
Must have
Meenu.
been useful to everyone. Yeah.
Thank you. I really enjoyed our conversation. Take care.
Same here. Okay.
Bye. Have a good day.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.